How are you doing? Thanks for having me today.
I'm good. I'm Abigail. I work here at Shine FM, and for those watching, I am with Christian artist Hannah Kerr.
Hello, everybody.
So tell us, at what point did you know that God was calling you to music?
Yeah, so I've been singing since I was like probably before I could talk, since I was like 3 or 4. My parents were worship leaders my whole life, and so I've always been around music. But it wasn't until I was in like late high school, maybe a junior or a senior, that I really started feeling like, oh, okay, like maybe God is calling me to do music. I always knew like from a young age that God was calling me to do ministry, but really I just started solidifying, okay, I think it's music, I think it's songwriting, I think it's leading worship, late high school.
Okay. And your latest single, it's called Split the Sea.
Yes.
The lyrics are beautiful. They say, "But you're the God of miracles. You've always made a way for me. You can still split the sea." Can you tell us a little bit about the meaning behind that song?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, by the way. I'm so glad you know it. So Split the Sea really came out of I was going through a really tough season I guess it was like a year and a half ago. I was struggling with my health, and we kind of like didn't know what was wrong with me, and I was going to the doctor all the time, and I was like, you know what, God, like I know that we don't have answers right now, but I still believe that you're the God of miracles, and I don't know what the way is going to be, but I know that you have already made a way for me to be healed. And so I had the thing about the song is I really had to like declare it before I believed it. You know, I had to be like, okay, before I see the miracle, I'm going to say what I know to be true about you. And then that's going to make me believe. And that's going to make me realize that you can still do miracles today. I was thinking about, you know, when I wrote the song, I was thinking about Exodus and how God made a way for the Israelites to walk through the Red Sea on dry ground, and how incredible that must have been for them to see a miracle like that. I mean, I've never seen anything like that before, but God does still work in those ways today. He still does incredible things in our lives. And I just wanted to remind myself of that and wanted to remind other people of that too. So the song is really special to me, and I'm really excited that other people are able to hear it now.
I love it. I love it. We've been playing it on our station.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that.
Yeah. So what is the writing process like for you?
So it's always different. I get asked this question a lot, and I'm like, I don't even know. But I know that I always start with either like scripture is the usual. Like I'm usually reading my Bible, and something just jumps out at me in a new way. And so usually that's where my ideas come from. But sometimes I'll be listening to a podcast or a sermon. It really just depends. Sometimes I'll have the melody first, sometimes I'll have the lyric first. But it usually starts with at least an idea of like what the song would be about. And then I'll either write it by myself, but most of the time I take it to other people and we write it together, which is kind of cool because when you're in a room with like 2 other people and you're kind of just talking about like what's going on in your life, what God is doing in your life, it's kind of special to create something together, and it becomes like a worship song for the 3 of you in the room, but then it also becomes a song that other people get to hear too sometimes. So it's a pretty cool process, and honestly, like my favorite part about being an artist is getting to write songs. So it's really, really fun.
Do you have any cool stories of people who have heard your music and had said, "Hey, this is how it impacted me"?
Yes, it's been so cool, especially with my song Warrior. I feel like I get messages every single day from people that are just telling me these incredible stories about how it's ministered to them. One that sticks out to me was this little girl named Sydney. She lived in St. Louis, Missouri, and she was 7 years old and she had cancer. And it was her fight song, like throughout her journey with cancer. And she ended up passing away, I guess, a year ago now. And she was just such a beautiful little girl. And I met her. She came to Nashville, and we spent the day together. And I sang the song with her, which was so cool. And then she came to one of my concerts in St. Louis, and it's just really cool to not only hear the stories, but then also get to connect with the people that are telling them. The fact that I got to FaceTime with Sydney, hang out with her, spend time with her, just really made that really like meaningful. And I knew that God had done something in her life with a song that I had recorded, which was just so crazy to think about, you know, because it starts off with like me in this little vocal booth singing a song, and then you see how someone else is impacted by it, and it just makes the whole thing so meaningful and so beautiful. And so I always think about her when I sing Warrior. Like the first couple of times I was like, I can't even sing, I'm just crying, but she was just such a beautiful little girl, and I always think of her.
Oh, wow. So out of all of your songs, which one is the most meaningful to you personally?
Man, I think so. Warrior has become the most meaningful to me just because I think of the people whose stories I've heard. But I think the most meaningful song that I've written is Be Still and Know. It's on my first album. It's actually a duet with Mark Hall from Casting Crowns. And I've always just loved that song because I feel like when I wrote it, I was 17 and I was like thinking about going to college. I wrote it for one of my best friends who was going through a tough time. And now, like 4 years later in my life, I still feel like that song speaks so much to me in new ways. And I feel like God just has kind of given me that song to carry with me through a lot of seasons of life. And then also the fact that Mark Hall sang on it with me was so special just because I'm such a fan of him and he's been such a mentor for me throughout this whole thing. But yeah, I think that song, but also Split the Sea is really meaningful to me too, just because I really wrote it out of a difficult time and I watched God minister to me through that song. And then the fact that I get to bring it to other people for him to do the same thing. Yeah, so I have a lot that are meaningful to me, but I think those are probably the three.
Okay. So, fun question. Dream big with me for a second.
Okay.
If you could sing on any stage in the world, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is a big question. I think okay, so when I was on tour with Casting Crowns, we got to play at Red Rocks in Colorado. And honestly, like I was so nervous because it was my like first giant tour that I had been on and I was just so nervous. I feel like I kind of don't remember it very well. Like I know that I did it and there's pictures of it, there's proof, but like I really don't remember. And so I feel like if I could go back there and just like try to soak it in more and maybe do like a longer set, get to like really just take in the moment. I would love to play at Red Rocks just because it's such a beautiful place. Like you have the giant just like red everything rocks around you and it's so beautiful. So I would love to play there again.
I've always wanted to go there. I've seen pictures.
Yes.
It looks amazing.
It's so cool. It's so high up too. Like when you're standing at the top looking down, it's just like, oh my gosh, crazy.
Wow. Wow. So, do you have any new projects you're working on? What's next for you?
Yes. So I've released two singles, Split the Sea and Glimpse was just like a song that I released before Split the Sea. But I am making new music. I'm writing a lot. I'm going to go in and record, I think, sometime this summer. So hopefully I'll have an EP or an album coming out in the fall or, sometime next year. But I'm not really sure. But I know that I'm working on something new.
Okay. And if you could give our listeners a piece of advice, what would it be?
I think I would say that you just have to tune in with the Lord and listen to the calling that He's placed on your life. I think that we put a lot of pressure on like, okay, what am I supposed to do, and how do I find it, and how do I get there? But the truth is that God has already gifted us with everything we need to get to where we're going, and He's going to lead us there. And so, I think just recognizing that the calling that He places on each of our lives is very apparent when you're in step with the Spirit. I think sometimes like when I feel the most anxious is when I feel out of step with God and when I'm trying to do my own thing or when, I'm chasing my own thoughts or my own opinions. It's like, no, when I center back into the Lord and when His relationship with me becomes central in my life, that's when I feel the most confident in my calling, the most like confident in what I'm doing. And so I guess I would just say, bloom where God has planted you, use the gifts that He's given you, and tune in to Him to find your calling because you will find it, and He is so faithful to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna hold that to heart.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So, how can we be praying for you?
Yeah, so I am a college student full time. I'm graduating though in May. Praise the Lord. I'm so excited. So I think just be in prayer for perseverance because the senioritis is like really hitting me right now. So I think just be praying that I can finish strong and that God would give me the strength to do everything that I need to do and do it with joy because sometimes when you're writing like a 20-page paper, it doesn't feel super joyful. So I think just be in prayer for perseverance and for strength from God. I would love that. Thank you so much.
All right, all right. So, how can people connect with you? Social media, website, things like that.
Yes, so my website is hannahkerrmusic.com. Kerr is Kerr. Some people are like, is that K or Carr? No, Kerr. Hannahkerrmusic.com, and my Instagram is _ Hannah Kerr, because at Hannah Kerr was taken by the real Hannah Kerr. I don't know who she is, but she's out there. Twitter is at Hannah Kerr, and then Facebook is Hannah Kerr Music. So, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, it has been great to talk to you, Hannah. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Yes, thank you so much. It was such an honor.
Yeah, and you take care, okay?
You too. Thank you.